with, so you can start.
Yeah, sure. I can tell you what I know. Just from a logistics perspective, what I heard in the last 24 hours is that, and Rohit, you can confirm this, I imagine, that we should be able to have access to the various instances by Wednesday, Thursday of this week. So that we'll be able to do the pilot portion before we have the beta due on Tuesday, but that we'll be looking to execute the full experiment the first few days of next week, so that then we'll be able to have the evaluation done, and we can actually flesh out the full evaluation before the final deadline at the end of the following week.
Hey
So,
guys.
hey! How are
Hi!
you, friend?
Hey, actually, sorry, I'm dialing on my phone, so.
Oh, you are.
How's it going?
Going on. It's just a lot of things. As
Always a busy guy. Always a busy guy.
anyway. So what's up?
We were just talking. We had actually just started, and we were going over sort of the general timeline. And I was filling everyone in on the conversation that you and I had last night, which is
Okay.
that we'll be able to have the instances later this week, so that we can get the basic pilot feedback before the beta on Tuesday. Simultaneously, while we're turning in beta, we'll be running the experiment next week, so that we'll have it done to actually flesh out the final portion of the eval before the paper is due the following week. And that's as far as I got.
And then my question is now, when we bring the requesters, we at the same time we test for the prototype task, and I mean the instant they come, and then next is rating system too.
Well, that's one of the things that I wanted to kind of sort out today on the actual timeline, was to just get a really clear idea of, which are all three portions being piloted, like how does the pilot versus the actual experiment work, what's our like the pipeline for requesters and workers, how are we going to handle, are we going to overstaff a little bit in case we have any drop-off, what's our minimum sample size. Just wanted to go through all of those details and logistics to make sure, because we are on such a tight timeline, that we have all of our contingencies sort of in place and executable.
Okay. So we start from the prototype task now. For the prototype task, we will bring. We thought like we are bringing 20, right? 20 workers.
Yeah, that was my understanding, unless anybody knows otherwise, was that we were going to bring in 20 requesters and split them into the two groups of 10. Is that the number that you guys had also heard?
Sorry, could you repeat the numbers?
That for the prototype task, we would have 20 requesters, 10 in the control group and 10 in the prototype group.
That is what I heard, yeah.
Okay. And
so for the
then,
tasks themselves, we're using the Microsoft task for that, right? For the prototype tasks?
I don't
Yeah.
believe so.
So we had that initially, but we will be posting Microsoft tasks. So so for now, the purpose of Microsoft task is catching the bugs that we didn't notice. And that's pretty much of it.
So we're not using any of the Microsoft tasks in the actual experiment / evaluation. We're using them just for usability testing, sort of.
Kind of. We might get some insight about running the prototype task study from the Microsoft task.
Got it.
How are we going
However,
to have different categories of tasks now? Are we making the task,
so I think somebody was volunteering to go on Mechanical Turk and get some of those tasks. I forgot who was that. In
So I
Hangout.
posted like a couple of different ways to approach the problem. So this is in the evaluation part of the paper that the Rukshi posted. So in the bottom you'll see set up experiment, and essentially that is for the reputation part of the experiment and getting the 250 tasks. So if you guys have that open, in option one, so basically that is you go to mturk, you actually look at the different types of tasks. There's not like that many different varieties of tasks that are popular and people actually do them. There's only probably like you'll probably like 10 different kinds of tasks or five, six or seven different kinds of tasks. So we just go and we just get those tasks, and those are all usually so you'll be given a task hit, and then you can view the hit, and then that hit will link to another one. So it's never on mturk itself. It's always iframed on some other website, and then it shows up on mturk. And basically what we do is we would just go and see whatever stuff that they have there, and then we would just take that and we would just put that on our thing manually. So that is the way where we have the most amount of control over doing this. So we can be like, oh, I want you to enter 3 inputs for these 3 audio transcriptions. I want you to take this receipt and then make sure that you can write all of the fields in that receipt, items in the receipt. So we can actually come up with like individual stuff for that, and that's, we have a lot of control over the difficulty of the task, like how good it is, how bad it is, and stuff like that. So if we go to, so the cons of that is like, this is not a one person. We're not gonna, one person can't go and create 250 tasks, or I think 250 is a number that we were throwing out. It's not gonna be 250 because that's a lot, but more like closer to like 50 to 100 maybe, so that it fills up the feed. So you're not actually you're not just seeing the same task over and over again, but you can actually scroll substantially and get tired of it. Yeah, so it has to be like a few people doing it. It can't just be one person, and they have to be coordinated. Option 2 is to scrape mturk and then use the iframe. So basically take the iframe that they have and then put it on our thing. And we create an iframe tag on the thing. While this sounds on our own platform, we create an iframe tag, and then what we would have is a box with the iframe stuff, and then a box on the bottom that contains whatever input we want to show from that iframe. So this is the pros of this is. Sorry. Okay, so the pros of this is you can get a lot of tasks in one sweep. You can sort of like go and iframe, get all the stuff in the iframe, and then just put it in here. But it's not so simple because everything else, all the tasks are pretty different, and they have the fields inside of the iframe itself. So there's no way for us to get the input out of those particular fields. And I don't want to. I think it would, we would be focusing more on the technical challenge of this rather than the actual experimental challenge, and I think that's sort of shifting the focus away, and that's probably not the best. Like, we don't want to do tech magic here, so.
Okay, so this is what we can do. Let's say we have 10 people active in our current project work. Each of them can go and find. Oh, no, from our team. Each of them can go and find out those tasks manually and get at least 10 to 20 tasks per person and start posting them into our platform.
Do you mean 10 to 20 varieties of tasks or 10 to 20 actual tasks? Because a lot of them are the same.
Total varieties are only 5 to 6, if I'm not wrong, on Mechanical Turk. Because you can do surveys, you can do sentiment analysis, you can label images, and so on. So there are not many. Audio transcription is one of those. So there will be like,
before we get into the details of the task scraping, can we just take a step back and just confirm what the overall approach is on walking through the RepSys eval? Because we had a few different ideas about how it was going to go. And before we go spending time like scraping and building, I just want to make sure that we all understand what will actually occur as far as how many tasks somebody needs to do, do they need to be consistent across, like how all of that is going to work.
Okay, let's start from the bigger picture. Okay, we have Daemo. Daemo has a reputation system, and Daemo has a prototype task. Those two has to be evaluated. First, we take the prototype task. That we evaluate the prototype task by getting requesters and requesters ask them to post task and let the workers to try the prototype task one half, and the other half is not trying the prototype task. So that in end of the day we rate both, or else we see what's the outcome from the both. That's clear, right?
Yeah, I was more curious about the final discussion on RepSys because we had talked about a number of different approaches. I'm not sure who was on the call with Bernstein the other night. Neil, were you there?
Um, so I think I
When
posted
yesterday?
on the Boomerang worker study, which is a repost from Adam before. I think is that the one that you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that one is, as we discussed, the call. Well, it was from everybody, not just Adam, but it's okay. So in that, it's more about you fix one side. Let's say you create like artificial requester of three type. One is good, average, and bad. And then
That's to test the requester or the worker, because we
so
have
we
to.
have to test both the sides.
Yeah.
We have to fix one side,
Mhm.
uh, and then test it how it works for workers, and then we have to fix worker side, and then test how it works for requesters.
Yeah. So
Right. I'm
So
just since we were talking about task scraping, I just wanted to make sure we knew, exactly how many tasks we needed, how that workflow was going to be.
So
um,
I think this was addressing two critical problems. And the reason they came up with this approximately 250 number was that it's really hard to essentially give the incentive for somebody to vote fairly and actually not vote to see any kind of an effect on reputation without it actually coming back to them in the future. So if we tell them that they're going to do, hey, you're going to do tasks for like one day or whatever, and you see all of these tasks on the page, then you have an idea that your reputation is going to float these, your ratings are going to float all of these requesters to the top, and you will have to actually do those tasks. Compared to if you only see like 10 tasks on the page, then you may not rate correctly because you already know that there's not that many tasks on the page, so you may just want to get through. I think that was the problem that it was addressing, that we need to have more tasks, which solves the problem. I may be phrasing it incorrectly, but yeah.
my picture was different. I thought Adam was proposing to have simulation, like requesters generated by we generated as fake requesters, and then let the workers try it at one end, and the other one next one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is the case. I think I'm just trying to explain why we need to have so many of these tasks.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Perhaps I think I would like to hear something more about it. Are we going to have that as the evaluation for the paper as well, or are we going to do something different for the? For the write-up, are we going to take the fake? Are we going to explain the we generated fake requesters and then the process of that?
Rohit, I thought, and again, there have been so many conversations over the last few days. Like,
Hmm.
forgive me if I'm mishearing something, Neil. You can correct me. I thought that one of the things we talked about was that we wanted all of the workers to complete all of the same tasks so that they could be compared and ranked. Neil, do you remember that? Maybe.
Did you say all of the workers to complete the task?
See, I seem to the way I remembered it was that. Sorry, let me think through this and make sure that I'm saying this clearly. That we needed them to be able to. Well, maybe we don't actually have to.
So I'm not too sure. I mean I haven't been in every single hangout, so I'm not sure if that was brought up in one of the ones, but um, I
Because we
think that
needed the requesters to actually rank the results.
right, we do need them to rank the results.
So
We,
how do we have them rank when people are kind of choosing on their own from up to 250 tasks? I thought we were keeping it more
so
focused.
that would be the requesters will see the same results essentially. If they see different results, I mean it could actually just be different quality work, right? But if they see the same results, then I mean I think this was one of the things we were trying to figure out was is the experiment, are we going to do the worker experiment first or the requester experiment first, then do the worker experiment, where we measure reputation on the requester side first, then we measure the reputation on the worker side. I don't think that we came to an actual solid conclusion on that, but we should try to figure that out.
If both are real, then I mean we can decide the order. But if one side is fake, then probably we don't need to, right? So
Yeah.
if we have fake
Yeah,
requesters,
that's true.
Yeah,
then
I
we don't
thought we were
need.
doing each of them individually. So the requesters were working with sort of fake workers or like pre-done work, and then the workers were working with fake requesters, right? But I thought that we had limited the number. But I
Number,
could
the number of workers and number of requesters.
know the number of tasks. Because I thought one of the things, because we had talked about
Yeah,
how do we
so
create the mechanism of, like you were talking about, how do we create the experience for the worker that an accurate measure matters? And there were a few different things that came up about how to do that. But I thought the way Michael left it was that as long as we sort of create the sort of impending doom, if you don't accurately respond, and if we have it automatically at that time sort what's in there. There were two ways we were looking at it. One was to just show the immediate results by sorting, and the other was to have their feed do a couple of iterations, and that the next time they come in, their feed is more heavily populated with the with the requesters they had rated highly in the previous iteration. So I thought that how we left it was that we are going to do 3 iterations, and in each of the following iterations, the tasks would be more highly populated with the high-ranking requesters from the previous rounds.
So I mean
I think the high populate, check plus workers plus few new workers as well, as far as I remember. Is that
Say that again, Dorkshi?
when we talk about the requester side, they'll see the workers who rate them plus, the
Yeah, I was talking about the worker side.
oh.
so it's essentially the experiment, but it's done in 3 rounds. Um, uh, when you rate the workers, so
That's how I believe we left it. Neil, are you in agreement that's how we left it?
yeah, you need to do it into steps because you want to see the effect of rating, right? Like, and then how workers will access the task. So 3 rounds would be a good idea. Go through that
what is
cycle.
considered a round here? Is it just
Round is
a
like,
group of people doing a work, or?
yeah, you do the task, you submit it, and then requester rates it, and then you come back and see and attempt it, and again you do it, and things like that.
So is it
So what
so
we're
are we
saying is
saying like
like
a
round
time
here
span?
so think about, so what we are claiming is that our reputation system works because over the period of time, uh, it creates a situation, an economic incentive where people don't lie in the rating, right? Because if you provide accurate rating today, tomorrow you're gonna get benefit, and that benefit from requester side is you're gonna get good worker, right? So what we need to do to see this temporal effect, break it down in one day and second day and third day. So on first day you're providing ratings, and if you provide accurate rating, tomorrow you're gonna get good workers that represent that rating. Day after tomorrow you're gonna get to see that effect, right? You're
So,
gonna break
so
it
a
down.
sorry, I'm just gonna ask questions in between. I hope you don't mind. But so the
Yeah, yeah.
person is going to, I'm a worker. I go into the system, right? I
Mhm.
see these 100 tasks or whatever populated. I pick what, like 5 tasks to do, and then I do them. Am I done for the day, or am I continuing? Because once I come back to the feed, I don't see that immediate effect, right? Because I'm just gonna see the tasks as is. I'm only gonna see the effect tomorrow.
Exactly. So you complete the certain task. So if it is artificial worker, we can decide the quality, and we can also decide how many tasks that a particular worker needs to complete. And what we are looking for is the requester ranking for that. So tomorrow that worker comes in
Yeah.
because he's controlled, right? Like it can be us who is doing it, and where we know like good answer, bad answer, or average answer, or something like that. And then tomorrow we expect to see that, okay, where we stand, and according to that the requester will see and can assign the task. So it's more about validate the temporal effect of the rating.
Okay. So I mean, I think if we is this the experiment that we want to write up in the paper? Um, if we're I mean, if we're convinced of this, I think this is fine. It's just, do we want to write it up and sort of present it?
Yeah, we will need to. So first claim that we are making is this incentive compatible structure. So what does it mean? Social optimal social outcome is maximized because people have no incentive to lie. It's like you're driving and you have no incentive to get into accident because it's not good for you. And everybody thinks in the same way. That's why people don't dash on each other, right? So it's the same thing here. It's like everybody has the incentive to not to lie and provide accurate rating so that their task feed doesn't get cluttered with wrong requesters, or for request bad workers or whatever it is. So we will need to write it down maybe in like much more non-economic terms in the evaluation section, and we can say, okay, to achieve this effect we did the study in like day 1, day 2, day 3. So it will be more like operational aspect of the study rather than actual
Right.
reading of the study.
Right, because the idea is that on the worker side, if they rate sort of well, there's two metrics that we look at. One is if they rate well, then we'll see that they will do a larger percentage of those tasks the next day, and they will most likely rate requesters on probably on a similar scale between rounds 2 and rounds 3. Then at the end, we have them rank all of the order of who they think were the best requesters to the worst requesters, and what we're looking to see is that how they ranked them is consistent. How they ranked them as far as a check, check plus, check minus, is consistent with the ranking they produce at the end, and that also the number of check pluses in the is less than it would be. Let me say it again. The number of check pluses that we'll find in the control group where they're told that it affects their tasks and they see that it affects their task list day to day is going to be lower than the total number of check pluses in the control group, where there's no direct effect on their task feed over the 3 days.
Um,
I think this note summarizes everything accurately from worker side, and we just need to do the same thing from the requester side.
yeah, boomerang worker study, you mean? Yeah. So I mean, I can
Yeah,
type something up that basically goes through what Allison just said.
yeah,
Um, so,
and
but
it's the
this
same
note
thing
has
we
nothing to
discussed.
do with the 3-day study, though. So it just talks
Yeah,
about
so
just a
why
general
it
study.
doesn't have to do, because it says one thing, right?
One
Is it
shot study
controlled?
across multiple days.
Have worker go to town on every last task speed, rating immediately after each task. So it's like, okay, you're gonna see the immediate rating because it's controlled, um, and then you don't need to bring in people for 3 days or something.
What is the detriment if you just do it immediately? Because at the end of the day, we are still asking them for their,
If we do
like,
immediately, we have to have volume, um, because it's very hard to make for at least for me. I mean, statistically it doesn't make sense. Like three people came and they rated, and that's why our system works kind of. But if we show that okay, three people came and they did it on like consistently over like thousands of tasks, then it makes sense to believe in.
Yeah, the
Otherwise,
other
three
reason
people
why
came,
we
did
need to
five
do it
tasks, and
over,
rated everybody great and no, not great, and then I don't know. It's
well, I think part of it is that one of the metrics of good or bad requester is whether or not they accept or reject good work or bad work, or what those rejection rates are. So requester behavior and response is going to feed into the rating. So that's why we want people to be able to see if they know they did something well and the requester rejects it, you know, for not a particularly good reason, that's going to say they're a quote-unquote bad requester. And so we want to see if that negative feedback loop is going to actually feed into the system.
so the question was, would 3 rounds be enough to observe this effect?
it depends. How do you use those rounds? Like it's
I mean, how many people are in each round again? So if we only have like 4 or 5 requesters, or like 4 requesters, then are we, is that still not a small amount? We still need, or we were talking about having 10 or 20, right?
Right.
I think
So is 20 not going to give us, I mean, 20 is going to give us statistical significance in proving something.
Yes.
So is the problem is, are we going to really get 20? That's the question.
Well, that's one of the things I was talking to Michael about is, you know, what is our requester pipeline? And I talked to him about it sort of briefly. He said that they've got some things in the works, but that's one of the things that I'm trying to get nailed down in general today, is to really hammer out how many requesters do we need, how many workers do we need, how many tasks do we need, and just getting all of that set up so we can make sure we have it for when the back end is ready for it.
So, I mean, so for this meeting, I mean, is it fair to say we have to wait for a response to come back on that before we determine if we're going to do a 3-day study or a single shot study?
No, I think what we need to do is figure out what do we need to have a statistically sound study, and then find a way to make sure that we have those people. Because we can't really do it the other way around. Like, if we don't have enough people for it to be a valid argument, then, right.
okay. How do we argue? You know, 5 requesters are not statistically significant than 20. Do we have a prototype, or do we have a protocol to see?
I mean, it's going to depend on how much of a difference we are looking to prove to say that it's valid, right?
I mean, I don't think that
So
it's
basic
like,
sample, right?
so I mean, I think we just need to determine if we are going to see what we are intending to see from this through the number of participants that we have. I think that it's just a chat we need to have with Michael and figure out, you know, is this basically good enough for the Kai like paper? So
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what would Kai people would expect? Like, you know, so
so
far, what I've seen, like
this is
20.
what we need to do, I think. So we need to figure out first what are we going to measure.
Right.
No, even before that, what are we claiming, right?
Right.
We are claiming fair rankings without no reputation inflation because there is some kind of incentive compatible structure that exists. Now, there are three claims we are making. First is no inflation rating. So that means like people are not for whatever reasons. Second is incentive compatible. That means, oh, everybody understands the cost of bad rating. Then we have to measure that. But incentive compatible always is in the long run. That gives you temporal effect. Like you're analyzing the time series, but time changes, underlying economic factor changes. You live in different world that was like 2 years ago than now. So while analyzing that data, you have to see the temporal effect, right? So we have to account for that. And then third is like who will be coming, which side will be controlled, and which side will be dynamic. So based on that, we need to find out like, okay, if we gather the data, how are we going to evaluate it? Let's say we have 100 requests. We got the data. Now, then what? Right? So we'll need to look through factors that will determine the task quality. We'll say, okay, you are not just rating the requesters or workers, right? You're rating the work they have done. Now, if you're rating the work they have done, we don't have characteristics that will analyze the work. We don't have timeliness. That
Right.
may be like payment, that may be acceptance rate, that may be quality of task that was designed. So all these factors are implicit factors in our case. They are hidden factors. So whenever requester is gonna rate somebody, he is going to quantify that. He is going to put all those emotions into that one single number. But it's hard to say, okay, he is rating check plus because of XYZ reason.
Right, and I think that's why Michael wanted to also include the ranking, because it wasn't about the consistency of scoring from requester to requester or worker to worker. It was about the fact that in the aggregate, when you looked at all of the ratings that they gave out, it's a matter of comparing their ratings with the ranking. And the idea being that what hopefully we'll see is that in the control group, the total number of check pluses is a larger portion of the top of the list and of the ranking on an individual basis than in the experimental side. We'll see fewer check pluses and a more even distribution than we would in the other. So what he's trying to do is use the ranking to normalize for preference and how people rank tasks in general. So it's not about any given task being said that yes, it's true or yes, it's bad. It's that I think it's bad and I rated it as bad.
Right. Okay. So here is what we can do. So we have initial plan, right? Like we have a rough plan about it. One of that is here in this reputation system channel. We can start creating a simple Excel sheet with the different columns, and we can write down the rough points. Okay, this requester is gonna rate this much, this requester is gonna rate this much, and have like, let's say 20 data points that will cover all these scenarios. And then we will get the rough idea about how our data look like, and then how can we run analysis on it. Does that
No,
sounds okay?
sorry,
Or
I couldn't get much more clearly.
okay, so let's take this boomerang worker study, right?
Okay.
So we know what we are going to do in this case. We can let's randomly say, okay, we're going to hire 10 workers, we're going to have 250 tasks, and we're going to log the requester side.
Okay.
Now, what do we envision? Like, what kind of data we're going to collect? We can create an Excel sheet that can list down, okay, worker A, B, C, D, E, F to 20, whatever it is. Then tasks that they are doing and the corresponding requesters, and we can add like fake ranking in that Excel. and try to see how to first how that data will look like, and second, how can we use it for the further analysis purpose.
So basically, we generate the data that we are expecting to get from the experiment.
Kind of
And,
like you not even expected, like anything fake.
Yeah.
So that then we will come to know, okay, this is missing. Then this is how if we run analysis, like we do t-test or not, other part of that. So we can just like say, okay, fake kind of data, um, like a dummy data kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's we could definitely generate that. So uh,
And that will
basically,
also give us an
this
idea,
is
like
to
do we
answer
need
like
to,
would this cover everything that we need? Is that the point?
Yeah, after that, like still we generate that Excel sheet to decide what to do next, right? Is it?
no, it's more about what we have been thinking right now. And if you go by that,
It's more
the
just
data,
like a QC process in the actual experiment design, yeah?
kind of, yes. And we don't have to go by that route. It is just a suggestion. Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
so
I had tried to go through a lot of that yesterday, at least on the prototyping, and still, even after thinking through it and asking some questions, I still had some things that were not sort of clear to me as to what we are going to do on the prototyping side. Um, so I was just starting to go through it on Repsit. I just didn't want to start any of that before we sort of talked through what we were thinking and what was going to be executable, etc.
A prototyping task is not that complex, so we can finish it off right now, right?
Yeah, I mean the prototype is pretty straightforward, but I just had a couple of questions on it that I wasn't sure, that I just wanted to confirm that we are doing the prototype with 20 requesters, 10 on the control side and 10 on the prototype side. Do we think that that number is going to give us the stats we need to say one way or the other that it works or it doesn't? Do we expect there to be a big enough difference that that small a number is valid? I'm not entirely convinced that it's a statistically sound number.
Well, I think that's all right because, I mean, if we are talking about statistically significant numbers, then we have to think about how much of population we think, and then on we derive the sample, right? There are
Yeah.
tools, but
I'm not expecting that we're going to see a huge difference in distribution since we only have 3 check, check plus, check minus. I mean, how do you guys feel about the math on that?
in the prototype task, it's not about checking the significant in the numbers. It's more like, uh, to see from the individual level what the performance time and the expectancy is different from the other one, isn't it?
Neil, can you jump in on the prototype task for 1 second?
sorry.
Because yeah,
Uh, oh, for prototype task, it's straightforward, right? So it's all about requester first of all, right?
Yeah, it's not about the process. We're asking about the metric. What we're using as the metric to determine that the prototype tasks were actually better, or the prototype task experience was better,
Yeah,
or
the
was
feedback
how
from
are
the
we measuring that?
Yeah, so one thing was that acceptance and rejection ratio, right? Like after prototype task, you have accepted more tasks because task was so clear that there was no ambiguity and worker understood it clearly, and hence the quality of work they submitted was higher. And how do you measure the quality of work is like requester has accepted more tasks after task went to the prototype task against the task which was like without prototype task. So that's the one metric, right? Um,
quick question. How are we determining which types of tasks will produce better, like a more distinct accept rejection
So,
rate? I
so
imagine.
that's why we need to cover most of the categories on mechanical turk, uh, and post them. There are some open-ended tasks that we can post. We can find out like which tasks always have a problem, um, or ambiguous instructions. So prototyping task for macro task it is easy to evaluate. For micro task it is little challenging, but we can still find out like diverse category from mechanical turk and post those tasks.
So you're saying we're going to have 20 requesters, 10 on each side, 5 micro tasks, 5 macro tasks?
No, no, no. All are micro tasks.
All are what?
All micro tasks. Hello, can you guys hear?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're
all
only
micro
focusing
tasks.
on micro tasks?
Yeah, everything is micro task, no macro. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
I
my
mean,
signal is bad
which
a little
types
bit.
of micro tasks have the most need for prototyping? Or is it across all the different kinds of micro tasks?
All the different ones. Yeah, it doesn't matter that much.
Okay.
So as long as we have diverse set of categories, um,
So the Microsoft tasks are not going to be enough then, because Microsoft tasks are one category.
yeah, Microsoft task, yeah, because it's like you just go there and change the sentence. So the task description itself doesn't change much.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge we're gonna face in general. Even there is a feedback, will it be like significant feedback to change the interface?
Yeah, I mean that's
Right.
kind of my question. I feel like on a micro task, is there that much room for refinement?
That's pretty tricky. And
Because from
also,
what you're saying, it sounds like there's more room for refinement on a macro task than a micro task.
Yes, I agree on that. But if
So
we
why
take
would we only use micro
something,
tasks then?
oh, because macro task we don't support it yet in our platform, and that's why we are not touching it. Uh,
I think we just need to find these ambiguous sort of micro tasks on
so
mTurk, and there
one
are a few.
example would be survey. Survey is like uh, a task which kind of like unclear a lot of time to people. Second would be like so image labeling and all those tasks are easier, but other would be like take an article and rate its quality, like Wikipedia article, and rate its quality, which is already done by Kittur and other people.
yes,
So what you
yes.
do is like you already had expert rated that task, and it's you can create like ambiguous instructions and post it. So requester will create it. So we need to do that.
Okay,
Uh,
that makes
we
sense.
cannot tell them like add ambiguity, right? Because then that will be weird experiment. So
So we have to hope that they're going to write bad tasks, right?
yes, kind of.
Okay. Let's hope we have some notoriously poor requesters.
So I think we can just focus on the AMD tasks that. So the tasks that Mechanical Turk struggles with are probably going to be our jackpot in a way, where uh, if we use those, we have a better
Yes.
chance of showing this, right? So
Uh,
Yes.
what
And do
what
we have
if
a clear definition of what those are? I know we talked about surveys, something like an article rating.
yeah, so there are a few. I can actually like compile a small list of them and post them if we need to. But I mean, when we're creating these tasks, like we can go and find them. There's not that many. There's only like 2 or 3 categories, but yeah.
Right, because the way we had designed it is that we were going to give requesters a list of 20 tasks to choose from. They would choose 10 that they wanted to actually create in the system. 10 of them would have the prototype page, 10 of them would just have the general create page, and then we would move forward from there. So we need to have a list of 20 items that the requesters are going to have to choose 10 from.
What if we have the fake requesters here as well, so that we can have a prototype task clearly defined and ambiguous one, so that request the
Well,
workers.
because we need to show the process. I mean, I suppose, I don't know. I mean,
Because we are claiming
We are, we are measuring the whether requester will act on it or not, right? Like whether if by accident he creates a bad task, we cannot fix the requester side because he has to be dynamic so that he will go and change it.
right. When the
and
worker
improve it.
comes back and says, "Oh, what do you mean by this?" They can
Exactly.
either refine it or not refine it. So we just need to see the behavior in the actual system. Maybe they get a lot of feedback and none of them change it,
None
and
of
it
them,
doesn't
yeah.
actually work. We have to see if it works.
Okay. So I thought if it's not clear, so if it
Because there are a number of things that could happen. They could get feedback and they change the task, or they get feedback and they don't change the task, but the results that they got are now not as unexpected. So, I mean, there's any of a variety of ways that they'll behave in the environment. Okay, so we need a list of 20 potentially ambiguous tasks without telling them to make them ambiguous.
Yeah.
Neil, are we providing templates, or is everything just going to be make it yourself?
Oh, we have
It's a
drag
make
and
it
drop
yourself,
interface,
right?
so make it in yourself. So
What's that?
we have drag and drop interface that I proposed, and that's what we have in the system right now.
Okay, because I know at one
and
point in the way when I walked through it yesterday, it sort of implied that if you chose a category, there would be a customizable template.
yeah, so that's the main idea. Like there are two ideas there, right? Like one is you have drag and drop interface that people who don't have programming skill they can use it. So our current drag and drop interface is pretty 20% there, but it also gives like automatically generates the code so that people who have a programming background they can customize it the way they want. Plus, in addition to that, when you have one template that is successful and like requester knows that, oh, okay, this is perfect, it works, there is no ambiguity about it, they can share it with the community, then community can vote on the top templates, and then you have collection of large templates, right? Let's say you're doing design task, then you already know what is the standard process to follow because there are templates which are highly rated. And when the purpose of those category was like you select the design task and you say next, and then it provides you like various templates that people have already created and highly voted, and then we can design
Right,
like
but I'm just
entire.
talking about in the experiment. I'm not talking about later.
Oh, right now that first part is it doesn't even make sense that select the category, um, but it's just there for sake of being there.
And earlier it was so confusing that the task creation process. Do you add a template? I mean, it's important, I guess, for the UI purpose as well.
So in current UI there is no template, right?
Oh.
Right, but
But
are we going to have one for the experiment?
right now, no,
So
no.
I think
Worker will design it himself. Sorry, requester will design it himself.
From scratch.
You are right. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll definitely help with the ambiguous task portion.
Perhaps they
I
would
don't know
Yeah.
if we're gaming the
task as
system by
well.
not offering a template that they'll actually
So
have later, but
is it like you create a situation to so that people will be what do you call?
I mean, is that a little cheeky? Like that seems a little it seems a little off to me.
Yeah.
Especially because it's not how the system will actually be. Like, our interface is not going to be that bad. There'll be a default template to choose from.
Oh no. It will be both. It will be drag and drop too, and we can also add the template.
Right, but we're providing a default. Even if it's just a plain put name of task and description here.
Yeah, I think that's
Because right now, the UI I saw yesterday literally has nothing on that page. You have to drag and drop everything.
at least a small sample of something should be there. That's my, I mean, from
So I mean that is dependent on the
Is
type
that
of
right?
task, right?
I'm sorry.
So
What was
outside
that?
of the name and the description, which we provide in the previous pages. So the default template doesn't have anything right now. It's empty.
Right.
But everything that's there is going to be dependent on what kind of a task it is. Like, for example, if it's a survey, it's going to have different fields than if it's an audio transcription. So we can't really provide anything for. So the category doesn't really do anything right now. So that is, I think, what we're intending, right? We're not trying to have anything different than that, at least for this experiment.
That's okay. I just wanted to acknowledge that it puts us in a position where we're sort of kind of forcing the hand of bad task creation by providing very little templates or guidance or anything.
And it's very
Right.
ambiguous too. I mean, I remember because it has not changed from the previous university studies, right? It just like that's the point that everybody felt blank and what to do.
Yeah, because
One more thing
I went through the staging. I think it's Daemo staging on Heroku yesterday,
Yeah.
and the drag and drop didn't actually work on my computer, so it was hard for me to even see. So I just don't. I'm just curious. I don't know what it's actually going to look like, or if it's similar to what we have now, functionality-wise. Because I know there are some changes that have been made that haven't been pushed yet.
So we don't really have any changes done to the drag and drop itself. I mean that's pretty
Yeah.
much what's there. So
I think one way to achieve that is quickly is that once we fix on the categories that we want, let's say we have 5 categories, so we can build some default template for each category and set that as the initial template for that category. So that way so each user will get
Yeah.
the same template loaded up
The initial
every time they select that category.
Yeah, that was the initial goal, like having those categories there, and then we had this. So yeah, I mean that's a valid point.
I mean I think we could do a lot of things. I think we just want to figure out what we want to do for this particular experiment is to
Right.
like of course we can have templates for each category and have like even a guide to guide you through what to write in each one, but I think it's just
Okay.
more that we want to just
Here is
figure
the
out like
one
in
thing
this
we can
experiment
do.
is it enough to not have it.
No, I was talking about something that we can do immediately for this MS task or maybe the evaluation process. So I'm not saying to add the template features or another features at all, but I'm saying that if we fix on the categories, we can build some basic template and fix that as a default template for that particular category.
Is there any reason for us not to do that?
Well, so templates are good, but they also cause a problem. That now let's say you add a template, then requester has to customize it, right? Then you have to implement the technical part of that customization and so on.
Well, that's no different than a blank page, right?
That in some ways it is. The
You're sort of
blank page is
guiding the
like,
the requester somewhere, right?
so
Well,
here
what
is
if
what
we
we
gave
can do.
them,
Here is
what
what
if
we
when
can
they
do.
went to that page, they had the option to either customize or use the template? Because like I said, for me,
Okay.
when I got there, it didn't even work, so I wouldn't know
Uh,
what to do
I,
in
th-
that.
I think the user will always be requester here. Requester will always be modifying the template. So there is nothing like they will be using the default template as it is. So customization will always be needed.
Right. Okay. So to solve the problem of prototype task, right? We are saying that our task creation process itself is not perfect, and that will have effect on the way task is being created. So our results will not be reliable. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So here is what we can do. Do you guys think if we provide some kind of information about how to use drag and drop, that will help?
Yes. Or as a
It
sample.
doesn't have to be template or something, but you just like, let's say um, we create
Yeah,
a
and this is
video.
also assuming the drag and drop works. So, Allison, if it
Yeah,
wasn't working for you, I think we should definitely work on fixing why it wasn't working for you because that should not be
yeah,
the case.
Okay.
that's correct.
I was logged in through Durham's login because the registration wasn't enabled.
Right.
So I don't know if it's because of his instance or if there was something going on there.
Oh, yeah. Have some sample tasks they can
Sample
look at.
task. That's what I said. Template is, if template is difficult, let's have a sample one. Like this is the
Like a
way.
view hit page on Enter. Yeah, we could have something similar to that. I think that would be a pretty that's a pretty fair way of doing it. If you have a bunch of tasks already created there, and you can view how they actually appear, you can use
Right.
that to create your own.
Neil, how do you feel about that?
I think so. Even we use template or don't use template or put a programming language there. What we are trying to evaluate is the design of task. So the interface of the task. So in that case, if requester has all the information how to use the controls and tools, he is good to go. Unless and until he's a new requester and he never done the crowdsourcing kind of task posting. But if requester is there and he has done significant amount of task posting, then he knows why text box exists or why image container exists and things like that. So if we educate the user about how to use the control, not about how to create the task, then I think we can reduce the effect of it. And we can write about it in paper, right? Um, so that,
I mean, for the sake of this experiment, right? I
yeah,
agree that, it may not be completely direct and easy to understand that, how to use a drag and drop interface. But I also don't think that it's that difficult to understand that what a checkbox is doing or a label is doing or input is doing.
yeah.
So, I mean, would we not, would this experiment not make more sense without the templates than with the templates? I think that's the thing that, before we implement it, let's figure out if it would make sense without the templates.
I think another way to do is that we post some video, a link to that, which a
Mm-hmm.
user can open, then they can see how the drag and drop mechanism is working,
Yeah,
and from there they can pick it up.
Yeah.
it's something like that. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, just one tutorial, I think, for how to use this drag and drop to create a survey is plenty.
Yeah. I think that will be good. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Like even in initial study, that they like I think Dilrukchi, you did a lot of UX research, right? There was a complaint like, okay, it's not very intuitive how to use it and things like that.
I think what is easier to have now? Is it to have a tutorial or having a sample? I mean, having a sample would be also, it makes intuitive, like, when you see, like, this is this type of the task, we can do it. What is the difficulty here? Like,
I'm sorry, I lost that. Can you repeat that, Dewarchi?
having a tutorial or having a sample, what is the difficulty of the programming? So,
Yeah.
you can have either, right?
What do you
So,
guys?
quick question. So, if we give a almost perfect template, so for example, you have audio transcription, that really only has so many possibilities. You have an audio field and you have an input box. There's only so many ways you can go with that.
Right.
And we give the template for that, right? There is really not that many situations where a requester is going to sort of mess that up with a given template. Um, are we aren't we leading the requester to a particular destination already? And isn't that going to impact the test results? If we like, we're not starting them on a blank canvas. We are telling them this is how you're going to do it. So are we not also messing up the results by sort of leading them in the right direction
Well, I
instead
think
of
part
letting
of
them
it
figure
has
it
to
out?
go back to the conversation we were having before about which kinds of microtasks are ambiguous by nature. Because the fact is that in the actual system now, there are definitely certain types of tasks that require feedback, and others where it doesn't, they don't fail in that regard. I mean, prototyping doesn't solve every task, it just solves poorly written tasks. So that's why I mean, if we only had the basic micro tasks where there doesn't require feedback, then we won't need it.
Right, but in that case, then a template makes no sense because we shouldn't be telling a requester. Well, now we shouldn't be. I'm just saying that's my opinion, but it's hard to say that this is an ambiguous task. This is how we think you should solve it, right? That's what we're doing by giving them a template. So shouldn't we rather say this is an ambiguous task, figure out how to solve it?
But I don't think that we're not looking to prove whether or not people can build things from scratch, right? I mean, we're looking to say in the system as it will exist or as it exists, right? Because people have access to templates now in their systems, correct? So what this isn't a test to see if requesters can solve things from scratch.
Yeah, so I mean, I think again, this is my opinion, but if I was in the system, and I was given this very, ambiguous task that I had to post, and assuming that I'm a requester who has experience with MTurk, but not necessarily experience with this particular kind of task, and I'm given a template, I have no idea how to really solve this, problem. My solution would always be to just use the default template, because I actually don't know how to use it, right? I mean, I may make modifications and customizations to it, but I'm going to rely on the default template more than I would if I had to. I'm
Agreed.
saying, like, is it going to be harder? Are we making the experiment harder for ourselves? That's all I'm asking.
I mean, I think we have to stay true to the reality of the environment. It's not that, I mean, when we give them the list of 20 tasks, what we choose to put in the list they can choose from, obviously we don't want it to be a majority of things where there's not generally ambiguity,
Okay.
right? We want to provide a
So
list that...
Okay, both points are right, but we can ask ourselves is what are we evaluating? In the paper we are making claim is tasks are unclear because ambiguous instructions are given and so on, right? So we're talking about the design of tasks, the elements that actually goes into that interface. So we can say, oh, no guide, he just created the task, right? Even you provide a guideline, instructions that he's gonna use, he's not gonna use like same instructions from the template. He will just use the same controls. He's gonna change the label, he's gonna change the text field. So this is gonna be more about what kind of description you provide to attempt the task, like the instructions rather than the control itself. Template can help in using the controls that you already have set of controls and you can use it. But instructions can change, even you have template, right?
Right.
Agreed.
So
I mean, I think
when
what
we
we
write
just need
about
to
it,
do is.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, no, no. I was totally interrupting. I apologize.
So I think when we write about it, we can focus on the ambiguous instructions rather than creating a situation where paper reviewer will feel like, oh, you didn't encounter it.
I see.
And we can make this claim like, okay, templates are great, they are useful, but templates don't prevent requester from creating ambiguous instructions, and that's what causing the problem.
If that's what we're stating in the paper, then I think that yeah, that's a fair way to go about it.
I'm with you on that.
Are we? So I have to get going pretty soon.
Am-
Then, and one more thing, we could not talk about the survey instrument that we are going to distribute with these people. From we have to give them a pre-survey and a post-survey, or just a post-survey.
Say it again.
Aren't we? Other than these rating mechanisms, we have to evaluate them qualitatively as well, right? Just like
I mean,
open-end.
I think there's an opportunity. If I think that for this portion, it should stay pretty focused on exactly what we're working on. I think that once we sort of nail down the process and the mechanics, I think it'll give us a better insight as to if there's something we do or could find out in that moment, right? Because I think it really is more about the technical solution affecting this trust issue than anything else. So, I mean, I think there's room for that, but I feel like we need to solve these other things first. That's just me.
But at Michael's discussion, he was saying, once they finish the task, the service popping out, and then they, I mean, and
Yeah.
you're not the task.
No, I'm not saying we're not doing it. I'm just saying I don't know that I think that we just need to, because there's things that need to get done from this, like scraping tasks or recruiting workers and those kinds of things. So I'm just saying if we can talk about it, we don't necessarily have to decide that in this meeting. We have a little more leeway on time for those questions than figuring out exactly how many requesters and workers we need and if there's something that needs to be built before we start and things like that. I'm agreeing. I was just bringing some time thought to it, that's all.
Okay, then if we are to agree on the numbers of the workers and requesters, so 20 is 20. Are we settling on 20 for the prototype task?
Neil, you're the math guy.
So I think Neil has dropped out, but
Oh, we lost Neil. Okay. I think what we could do then is we could take sort of these parameters and numbers, and we'll just run them by Bernstein. Just say these are the numbers that we're looking at. This is the minimum sample size we're looking at, and just confirm that he is okay with that. How do you feel about that, Math Rohit?
I think that's fine. I think that's what we're doing in every other experiment as well. Is we're basically like asking if this like statistical significance is one thing, but we're trying to understand like is this good for this experiment? Does this get us to where we need to be, right? So I think running it by Michael and figuring out is this going to do enough I think that's a good way to go about it.
Okay.
That's a thing that we can always change later. That's not something that is, if Michael says it's not going to be enough. Sorry, I'm missing this chat here. Maybe run a simulation like what Ryan did to see what numbers would be. Yeah, so we could. I mean, we could run a simulation. and figure that
Yeah, I
out.
mean,
So these numbers could always change. These are not set in stone. So we just need to figure out what is going to be okay.
right. I mean, and some of that is going to determine, how big a gap do we want to prove it, because that's going to have a significant effect on sample size.
Right. Yeah.
How much of a range do we need?
And the thing I think we want to, I'm going to try and sort of get my takeaways from this is, so we're going to try to run this experiment with by scraping sort of ambiguous tasks for the prototype tasks from MTurk. I think that is what we're trying to do there, right?
Yeah.
Agreed.
We are trying to get a large number of them, so a group of us will have to sit and actually do it. So that has to be planned out after the platform's been deployed and everything.
For prototype, we're only going to need to end up with 20.
With 20, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously we'll need more than that, but I mean, when we actually put the final portion, at least into that for that into place, we only need 20, and then they'll pick 10 from the 20.
Okay. 20. How many tasks?
It's 20 tasks. The requesters will pick. So basically, we have 20 and what are traditionally ambiguous tasks. We present the list of 20 things to be done to the requesters. The requesters pick 10 of those and then attempt to create tasks for them. And then, obviously, if they're in prototype or non, we know what happens from there.
Okay. Yeah, that's clear now.
Yeah. And as far as templates or non-templates, so we have templates and tutorial as options, and we're still trying to figure out if we want to go with either approach. We're going to do one or the other or both, right?
One or the other or both of
templates or tutorial.
Yeah. So tutorials, in sense, if it's all, then again it come to the usabilities, like the tutorials, as it says, that will be extra work for the requester to go through a tutorial and then come again and then see, design the task. That's something extra that we have to expect from them. So that will slow down the process too. But in terms of templates, it's not that hard to follow, like tutorials, templates. At eye glance, you can see that's the human cognitivity. Like you see a template, or else you study a tutorial. That's trade-off that we have to think of.
I think we can do both, but the tutorial will not be a lengthy one. It will probably be less than 30 seconds, where
30
the
seconds.
user will all,
You
yeah,
said less
where
than
the
30
user
seconds?
yes, because the user will all know how can do different elements and how to change those properties. So I don't think so anything else other than this is needed.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think the tutorial is going to be pretty basic in that you just sort of show how to use the drag and drop interface.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if you have a template, like there is still a learning curve in how to actually use the drag and drop interface. So just because you have a template doesn't mean you know how to use the drag and drop interface.
Mm-hmm.
correct.
So what we can do is that we can create a small and show to the user how he can create a survey of like 3 questions, right? And probably we can put a template for the same as well, so that user can see that this is what I saw in the video and this is what I already have in my screen. So he can start picking up from there.
So show it only once and then hide it. I would think that we leave it if they want to go back and reference to it. I mean, it could be as simple as just like a YouTube video that just shows how to use the interface. So they could just go back and refer to it if they need to.
Yeah, either is good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, Rohit, one of the things we could do is on the page there could be a little button that says, tutorial or template, and if they choose to use them, they do, and if they don't, they don't. That's also an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That also looks good.
All right, so let's do this. I think we have some clear sort of questions/proposals that we just want to run by Bernstein. So what I will do is I can jot some of those down and then post them for you guys to look at. And then when everybody's comfortable with what we've got, we'll just send it over, or I can just ask him questions, whichever you think is better.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you wanna ask Bernstein these questions about what is actually gonna give us statistical significance and everything, I think that's great.
Okay.
On the channel itself, Michael posted a couple of papers for the evaluation team to read,
Yeah.
and sort of before we take something like a paper sample to them, we should base it off of what is in these papers. So one is the measuring crowdsourcing effort with error time curves, and the other one is distributed analogical idea generation inventing with crowds. So that's the one with Kitur. So we can look at that and sort of do a write-up based on those papers and use those as model papers.
Okay.
So I can work with the team to do that.
Yeah, if you could work on that, because I don't, I was working on sort of the Daemo parts and the other parts on writing, and was looking to do more just to help with the logistics and the math on eval.
I can do that, right?
Yeah,
so
that
if you guys
sounds
can do that.
good.
So in the meantime, I'll just run some of these questions and numbers by Bernstein in the eval channel so everybody can see it.
And what will happen to the Adams simulation? We are waiting for a decision from that outcome, right?
What is Adam's simulation?
On the pilot?
Yeah.
Again,
No, I think the same, right? I think what we're discussing is the same thing, right?
I'm a little bit confused here about what we're talking about, but
the idea was that we would sort of do a soft launch / pilot of these things just to make sure that things work the way that we thought, with enough lead time so that if something wasn't working right or something unexpected was happening, we'd have time to adjust the full eval, and still get everything back and done in time before the paper.
I mean, I don't
Just a
think
little
that,
insurance with a
yeah,
pilot.
I mean, I think our plan doesn't interfere with that in any way, right?
No, not at all. No, if anything, it just supports that, because then he'll know what we're going to test. But again, we just got to figure out the logistics of how many people are doing the pilot and everything else. So I will, I'll take a few minutes to kind of get some of these thoughts together, ask Bernstein some questions. I think, is he traveling today or did he travel yesterday? Do you know?
I think it's today. Isn't he there 7th, 8th, 9th or something?
Yeah, I think he's coming in today, but I don't know when. Either way, I'll get some of this stuff, these questions put together, and I'll get them in the eval channel and send them to him on eval so everybody can see what comes back. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thanks.
Thank
So
you.
many questions.
Yeah, and then we'll see the questions in the channel as well, right? So,
Exactly.
I think,
Yeah. So that's why everybody stays in the loop.
okay.
I think there was one thing that we were discussing, like the mathematical model, that we can probably build before the experiment to run, where we can capture all the requesters and maybe a fake numbers for 1, 0, and -1 for the check plus, check and check minus, and we can build a mathematical model and see like how we will deduce the results from that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's what we were looking to do, is to look at the differences on that scale and as it relates to rank, etc.
Okay.
Cool. Alrighty, all. Thank you
Okay.
so much. We'll be
Thank
in
you.
touch over the next few hours.
Okay.
Yes. Thank
Have a good day,
you.
everyone. Bye.
All right,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye-bye.